There is a very specific lie that we tell women the second they become mothers, that their ambition is supposed to go into quiet retirement. We're told to trade our drive for selfless devotion, and we feel pressured to pretend that mom is the only title we'll ever need to feel whole again. But I call bullshit. I'm Shenae, and this is Lost the Plot. Almost a year to the day after my second child was born, I walked back onto a film set for the first time since before I got pregnant the first time, which meant it had been over 5 years. And in that process, I realized something terrifying. I was desperately missing a piece of myself that I didn't even know was gone. But in that process, I also realized that I wasn't the same cocky 20-something-year-old who was desperately trying to prove something to a world that didn't see her anymore. Today, we are deconstructing the lie that you need to choose between your soul and your family. And I want to show you that the version of you that exists after the pivot is actually the most dangerous one of all. The day I got the offer for the job that brought me back to set for the first time in over 5 years, after having 2 whole people, I was so grateful for the opportunity financially for my family. It made a lot of sense. I was also riddled with guilt and fear for how my kids would be when I knew that would involve 3.5 weeks of me being essentially MIA. Once you sign that contract, once production begins for a film or a TV project, your time is no longer your own. And I'm sure there are extreme emergency scenarios where they would let you leave. But generally speaking, if your kid falls and scrapes their knee or they get sick or whatever, I would be like totally off duty and unavailable to them. Ugh. Like still gives me anxiety just to think about that because I have been present for every single moment in my kids' lives. I shifted the trajectory of my career path to content creation from acting full time so that I could be at home and accessible to my family at all times. I was open to considering it because it was a short-term project. Something like a 90210, for example, we used to film for 9-10 months of the year. That's a really long time to sign your life away, basically, and say, okay, I'm committing to, 5 days a week for however long you need me, whenever you need me. I am now yours and not theirs. Even the thought of doing that for 3 weeks was giving me an immense amount of anxiety. At the time, me and my husband were both work from home-ish parents, so he had the flexibility to fully step into that role. And he's the best dad ever. So I wasn't worried per se about like how he would take care of them. I was more just worried that I wouldn't be there because I knew certain routines and things like that. And I was just like, oh, I'm going to be like a big missing piece in their day. How will they cope with that? I also was nursing my son at the time, and I was coming up on being ready to finish with that anyway. He was about 11 months old when the offer came in, and the project was starting in a month. So I was like, okay, that gives me a month to wean him and, do this gradually. And I think that's enough time. I feel okay about that. But it definitely put like the nail in the coffin of, okay, I'm done nursing for good now, because I did not want to deal with, and you can, of course, people do it, but I personally didn't want to deal with the stress of having to pump on set and store the milk and get it to my husband. And what if he ran out, and then what would he do? And I didn't want to put them in that situation because that would be so stressful for my husband and so upsetting for my son. So it just made sense at that time to start the weaning process. But while I had been thinking about stopping nursing, I wasn't like certain I was going to absolutely stop at a year on the dot. And this solidified it. I only nursed my firstborn for 6 months. So I don't know why. I've gone much longer with my second child, but I still was having like, I don't know, iffy feelings about the whole thing and just feeling guilty. Now I've gotten that off my chest. I want to say that mom guilt is a trap. She is a sneaky little bitch, that mom guilt. Like I wrote in a caption the other day on Instagram to give my husband credit where credit is due. I was like, he's a very quote unquote hands-on dad, though I fucking hate that term. And somebody jumped in and corrected me even further because I had referred to myself in the video as a working mom, which is bullshit. Like, Who has ever referred to a dad as a working dad? Literally nobody. And that's a problem. It's a problem with the way that this familial structure and society has set this up for us to feel guilty for working as a mom, to feel guilty for stepping away and being less hands-on as a mom. It's problematic. We have accepted those terms as legitimate vocabulary, and automatically that sets us up to feel guilty when we are fulfilling our roles as mothers within the family dynamic in a different way, a way that digresses from adhering to those terms. Can you tell I'm fired up about that? And then there's the flip side. You're having all of that mom guilt about stepping away, spending time away, not being physically present, and what if they need me, and all of the spiraling thoughts. All of that spiraling is happening while you are there trying to do the job that you have been hired to do. And so then you feel guilty that you're being a bad professional, that you are not doing your job as well as you should be doing because your heart is somewhere else. And therefore, a huge chunk of your mind is somewhere else with it. As soon as that production started, all I could think about when I was driving to set that day was, are they going to be okay? I really hope they're going to be okay. I hope that nobody has a meltdown. I hope it's not too hard on my husband. I hope Bowie, my daughter, who is very attached to me, isn't missing me too much and crying about it. I hope my son is okay. Blah, 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 blah. That's all I was thinking about. And then I got to set and I was in hair and makeup. So I still had the freedom to like have my phone and check in on them and make sure everybody was all right. As my husband tried to like calm me and be like, just do what you're there to do, enjoy. And then the moment came where I actually had to step onto set for the first time. I literally felt like I had never been on a set before, like ever in my whole damn life. And I had tracks set up, all the big cameras, they were miking me up. I had my tee on the ground, had to hit my mark, and I had my sides, and I was just like, oh, why did they think that I was capable of this? Fuck. They're going to call action and I'm just going to be like, blah, blah, blah. And the dude that I was doing the movie with, it was like his 41st or 42nd Hallmark movie. He was like well versed. He knew all the crew. He was like so chill, calm, and relaxed about the whole thing. And I was just like, this is stressing me out even more because he's so calm. So if I now like open my mouth and just immediately fuck up or don't hit my mark or whatever, look like a deer in headlights, I'm going to feel that much more guilty about slowing production down. I had been professionally working on set since I was 13. Quite a bit of experience doing this before, but I still just felt like I had never done it before. And they called action and I said the words correctly and I was on my mark and I knew what to do and I wasn't overwhelmed at all. And I had this like wave wash over me of like, yes, bitch, this is like riding a freaking bike. It's in your bones. It was just this wave of relief. And I felt thankful that it was in fact a relief and not a highly stressful situation. And I also felt really proud of myself. I was like, Mama still got it. She knows what's up. She knows what she's doing. Your girl knew what she was doing. The production went on for 3 weeks and I had such a lovely time. The cast and the crew was amazing. All my experiences on Hallmark movies are the best. I feel like they weed out the bad ones because there's no time for that, because bad attitudes and stuff are not helpful to a really tight production schedule. So every single time I am on a Hallmark movie, I just have the best time. The crew is the nicest. They're always different crews, but they're always the nicest people. The cast are so lovely. Everybody is just grateful and happy to be there and excited about what they're doing. And that is like the best environment ever to show up in every day because you're there for like 13, 14 hours a day. So it's important that you're having a good time too. And then on the last day of filming, they the director would do like one big speech of, okay, like it's our last day. Thank you all so much, blah, blah, blah. And I hate public speaking. Ironic, I know, because I sit here every week and chat your ear off, but I'm really just talking to a camera alone in my bedroom right now. So I don't have to like see your eye rolls that you're clicking away. I don't have to know. Public speaking makes me really sweat, but I felt really compelled to just address the cast and crew because I had had such an incredible experience with them, and it lit up something in me. It reignited a dying flame that I didn't even know was dying. I just needed to thank them because it was because of them that this flame was reignited. This passion was reignited. This self confidence was reignited. And they all collectively had a hand in that for me. So I was so deeply grateful to these people for so much more than this 3-week project. It was just the catalyst for my journey of self rediscovery after having kids. And it was motivated by something completely different, something far more meaningful to me than what had initially landed me on sets at an early age. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was really just about getting famous, okay? I was that kid. I was a tween that loved pop culture. I ate it up. I loved that era of famous girls and paparazzi and all of that stuff. When I had my first meeting with my first agent, I said to her, "You can keep the whole paycheck. I don't need money. I live in my mom's house. I'm 13 years old. Like, I'm good. I just want to be famous." And I meant it. I genuinely meant it. It wasn't about the craft per se. I loved being the center of attention and acting, performing for people, being front and center. It was a good vehicle for the attention that I craved. And I enjoyed playing pretend. Acting made sense, but I wanted to be successful as an actor for the attention and the notoriety. And later, of course, the money too. And this is a topic for another day, but I experienced pretty close to the level of fame that I had admired watching girls experience for so many years in my youth. And it was not all it was cracked up to be. I did not enjoy that time in my life whatsoever. It was a very dark period in my life. I wasn't cut out for it. Now, in my 30s, with 2 kids and a family, my motivation, my intention, the meaning that doing this held for me in my heart was so different. It was about creative fulfillment, that companionship that comes from a set environment that is so unique to any workplace. I haven't experienced working in many other workplaces, so don't hold me to that. It wasn't about external validation in the form of attention and applause and, press and fame. It was the validation of knowing that I had worked my whole life to be able to procure opportunities like this that would simultaneously fulfill me and provide the life that I wanted for my family. That just lit me up. It lit me up. And it's been a journey ever since that point. In my 20s, my ambition was a scream. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be validated. It was loud, but it was so fragile. My ambition in my 30s, especially after a major life pivot like having kids, it became a statement that held conviction. It wasn't about being seen by the outside world. It was about being seen by myself. And there are parameters around what success looks and feels like to me now that didn't exist in my 20s. In my 20s, I would have taken any job that would have brought me notoriety or built my star up. I just wanted more. I wanted more attention, more opportunities, more validation, more success. Now I want to curate a career path for myself that feels honest, feels true to who I am, fulfills me creatively and purposefully, and provides a life for my kids that I want. And that does not mean taking every old opportunity that comes my way or chasing the really big ones on paper because they're shiny. I have 2 small kids at home. I'm not in a position where I want to uproot them for 9-10 months of the year to go film a show somewhere else, or leave them and go do that on my own so they can maintain their routine at home. And that's a huge reality with acting. As a content creator, of course, I want to work, I want to make money. I need to work and make money, but I won't take money from brands and work with brands that feel like a compromise to my integrity, my values, and who I am. There are certain things about who I am and the life I want for my family and for myself that I will not compromise on for the sake of a shiny object. I had a movie offer come in a couple weeks ago that I said no to because it didn't align with the values that are important to me and my family dynamic remaining healthy. It was a good paycheck. A good paycheck that was hard to say no to, but it just did not align for me. And that's okay. I am not a lesser version of myself now because I have boundaries. I'm a more dangerous one. Why? Because you actually know what is worth your time. You have clarity on what serves your bigger picture. You've stopped performing for somebody else or for the industry, and you've started acting in your own best interest. That isn't a loss of drive and ambition. It's stepping into your power. And this self-realization is twofold because it has to do with the workplace outside and it has to do with the work because being a mom is the hardest job. It has to do with the family dynamic inside. Stepping into your power is really navigating what that position in the in-between feels best for you and not apologizing for it, not feeling guilty for it. I want you to look at your to-do list for tomorrow. How much of it is actually doing things that will help you to build the life that you want for yourself? And how much of it is just trying to prove that you're still relevant to people that really don't carry a lot of weight in your life? And then again, on the flip side, what is one piece of you, a hobby, a passion, a project that you sacrificed at the altar for your role as a mom or a wife or whatever your title is within the household? Because I want you to go reclaim it. And not for your kids, not for your career, but for the girl who is still waiting for you to come back to her. I heard something on Instagram yesterday that said there are only two people in this world that you need to worry about making proud. And it's not your parents, it's not your siblings, it's not your employer, it's not your husband or wife, and it's not even your kids. It's the 8-year-old version of you and the 80-year-old version of you. Sit with that. That hit me. Since becoming a mom, I have felt like I needed to justify everything that I did for being a choice that would make my kids proud. If it was working outside of the house, it was to provide a good life for my kids and make them proud like that. If it was being a doting mom at home and making sure that I never missed the field trip permission slip and the class photo payment and all of the things, it was to make them proud because I was a present mom. And I've looked at it all through that lens because I felt guilty. Because I felt guilty saying out loud that I want to do these things to make myself proud. Nobody else. And I do not need anybody else's permission to do those things to make myself proud. So why the fuck do I keep asking for it? Why the fuck do I feel like I need permission from my kids, from my partner, from my agent, from whoever to make choices for myself that feel good for myself, that would make the 8-year-old pop culture, entertainment, career obsessed little dreamer proud, and the 80-year-old who built a beautiful life, who raised decent human beings who are able to independently fly and thrive on their own, who shared a majority of her life with a partner who was her best friend and made every experience more get throughable or more fun through all the highs and lows and the roller coaster that life would bring them. And if we truly do make those two people proud, I promise you, we will make so many other people proud in that process. And that's the cherry on top. When you become a mom, there is a lot of talk about getting back to your old self. Again, another lie, another fallacy that we are sold when we become moms. There is no getting back to an old self. It's like trying to fit a square into a round hole or whatever that expression is. It's impossible. Our bodies, our brain chemistry, our hearts, they have been forever changed. There is no returning to our old selves. We are integrating better ones. The story didn't end. The first act just finished. And that pregnancy season and newborn bubble, consider that the intermission. But we all know the second act is where it gets real good. So if you are ready to join me in living our best life and stop performing it, hit that subscribe button, drop me a comment. Let me know how you're digging this whole Lost the Plot series because I'm still figuring it out in real time alongside you. And I am so grateful that you're here. I will see you next week. Mwah! Take care of yourself.